Welcome to the Doc Smither Show. I am Doc Smither, your host, coming to you from the River City, Richmond, Virginia, the home of the first ever electric streetcar in the United States, land of some of the best gourmet peanuts in the world, and good old barbecue. I think you're picking up what I'm putting down. Gratefully and willingly bringing to you, the listener, unbiased, unadulterated, unabated information. Keeping it real, relatable, and sometimes raw. I have breaking news. Actually, I just have some information to share with you. Isn't it something how everything is breaking news these days? Every major media outlet attempts to grab your attention with so-called breaking news. They declare breaking news for everything. It used to be when it scrolled across the bottom of your television screen, breaking news. Or you would hear the signature music followed by the anchor or reporter claiming breaking news, that you would actually get news that was groundbreaking or so important that whatever you were watching on television or listening to on the radio would be abruptly interrupted with this "can't wait another moment, can't wait another minute, can't wait to be the first to report it, urgent news." I do have some news to share with you. The information is critical. The details and facts are very concerning. I hope the details will not fall on inattentive ears. But my desire is that you, the listener, will be determined to make a difference somehow, some way, somewhere with someone who may fall into this category that I am going to share with you on this podcast. No, it's not breaking news per se, but it's news that breaks my heart because I see it firsthand every day in the educational system. Family, yes, if you're listening to this podcast, I consider you a part of this podcast family. Family, many of the Black youth, or some may use the term African American youth. Myself, I prefer the term American African to describe me because it declares what type of African I am. During this podcast, I will use the term Black. In any event, many of the Black youth in the education system of the so-called United States of America are struggling. Many are suffering. Yes, there are stories of success with Black youth. Yes, there are Black students doing remarkable things. Yes, there are Black students with high GPA averages and making academic achievements. Yes, there are Black students on the path to high honors and being easily accepted into schools, colleges, and universities and other institutes of higher learning. But the cold, raw, candid truth is that there are many Black students below average academically and challenged with behavior concerns in addition to contending almost with no hope in the classroom. When I say no hope, the student has given up on themselves. The parents or guardians have expressed hopelessness, and as distressing as this sounds, even some of the educational professionals, teachers, have verbalized at some point, especially in their little cliques or behind closed doors in the break rooms, that certain Black boys or certain Black girls are helpless and they don't feel there is anything anyone could do. Will say things like they won't make it to the next level, or they will be a failure and will not graduate. These are not things I think are being said. These are things I have heard. Somebody always wants to recite the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. Many times I hear people improperly state the proverb and say it takes a village. Maybe I am just petty, but that bothers me when I hear it. It takes a village. It takes a village to do what? That's like when people say, have a good one. Have a good what? If you're going to quote something, or if you're going to offer up a phrase, then quote it correctly or say it completely. If you're going to say, have a good one, why don't you say what it is? Have a good what? Yes, I am a firm believer, and I truly acknowledge the fact that it does take a village to raise a child. The question I have is, what village and what child are we talking about? I think I will leave that statement to simmer in your mind and talk about it in another episode. Well, here are some facts. A high percentage of behavior issues and disciplinary issues in schools are Black students, particularly Black boys. According to an article dated August 25th, 2021 on edutopia.org, entitled How to Avoid Over-Identifying Black Male Students for Special Education, Black male students are found to be more likely than white male students to drop out of school. Only 60% earn high school diplomas. And out of the 40% that dropped out, nearly 60% of them will end up in jail or prison. That's alarming. That's alarming, family. 18% of the nation's public school students are Black, but an estimated 40% of all students that are expelled from the U.S. schools are Black. That makes Black students 3 times more likely to face suspension or expulsion than their white peers, according to the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights 2014. The poverty rate is still high. In 2018, nearly 1/3 of Black students lived in poverty, 32%, compared to 10% of white students. The percentage of students who lived in households where the highest level of education attained by either parent was a bachelor's or higher degree was 27%, compared with 69% of Asian students and 53% of white students. An article on the National School Boards Association website dated June 23rd, 2020, entitled Black Student in the Condition of Education 2020 states that 45% of Black students live in single mother households. 35% live in father-only households. Only 7% of public school teachers and 11% of public school principals are Black. Yet, more than 15% of Black students attend public schools. The poverty rate is high for Black students. Internet access at home, or rather the lack of internet access at home, has become a hindrance for many Black students to learn. Black students with disabilities are receiving services for emotional disturbances, and too many Black students with behavioral challenges are being classified special needs or having a learning disability. The disproportion between Black students and Black teachers has not gotten any better. The achievement gap between Black and white students has not closed. The dropout rate is high among our Black students. The newly elected Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Winsome Sears, appeared on a television show called Your Voice, Your Future on November 1st, 2021, and stated that 84% of Black students in the 8th grade in Virginia lack the ability to do math, and 85% are functionally illiterate. Let that sink in for a moment. 84% of Black students in the 8th grade in Virginia lack the ability to do math, and 85% are functionally illiterate. Functionally illiterate means that they are not able to manage daily living and employment tasks. This data has been fact-checked and confirmed by the National Assessment of Educational Progress, a sector of the U.S. Department of Education. Excuse my crude language, but you are doggone right. This is breaking news. This news breaks my proverbial heart that 84% of Black students lack the ability to do math, and 85% lack proficiency in reading skills. We all know we cannot survive long without food or water. And without oxygen, permanent brain damage begins after only about 4 minutes. And death can occur within 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen. Food and water and oxygen are precious and critical commodities for survival. Other than the basic natural provisions to survive, how can an individual survive without basic fundamental skills in math and reading? Someone once said a mind is a terrible thing to waste. As a matter of fact, it was Arthur Fletcher, the head of the United Negro College Fund in 1972, who coined the phrase. It truly takes a village to raise a child. But what are we going to do about the village? There is a high percentage of Black students faced with behavior challenges, academic struggles, and inadequate disciplinary approaches from their teachers, staff, educational professionals, and administrators. This is not just something I have read. This is not just something I have heard. This is something that I know, and it hurts to see it. It hurts my heart to see it. It hurts to know that there are educators who can't really identify with Black students, yet they are the ones labeling and categorizing them as a problem or having a problem or a disability. I honestly believe many educators are genuine in trying to address the problems or find solutions. But there are those who verbalize with their mouth that they came into the educational system to help students learn, but out of the same mouth, they talk about our Black children. They talk about our Black boys. They talk about our Black girls in a negative way. They gossip about our Black child's challenges and declare their fate or destiny in a negative way. Then you have those who have become more patronizing and overly emotional with the coddling of the black students as if our black children are less than or merely victims. Instead of cultivating our black children as individuals who have greatness in them and come from greatness, but realize something terrible happened to them and something terrible has happened to the black people overall. I recently did a study and found at one school, I will not mention by name, only 11%, I'll say that again, only 11% of the students are black. And out of all the students in the school of all demographics and ethnic groups, the black students account for 98% of the school's behavioral and disciplinary issues. This same school only has 3% black teachers, staff, and faculty. 3%. Yes, it takes a village to raise a child. My question to the listeners on this podcast is, which village is raising which child? It's sad. It's depressing. It's news that breaks my heart when a fifth grader can't solve a simple addition problem such as 4 plus 3, or do simple division or multiplication. It's agonizing to know so many black students are below their grade level. It's frustrating that some students can't tell the time on an analog clock or can't look up a word in the dictionary. 1, because they don't know how to use the dictionary. 2, because they can't spell the word to identify any of the words in the dictionary. Then there are those students who can read very well, but they cannot comprehend anything that they read, nor have the ability to think outside the box. Yes, many students do have significant challenges and substantial confirmed disabilities. But rather than disabilities, some black students just have a disconnect. And unfortunately, many parents also have a disconnect with their child. They have a disconnect with their child's education. They have a disconnect with their child's ability. They have a disconnect with their child's reality. There are some parents in denial about their child's education or skill level. Then sadly, there are some parents who just become very defensive when an educator points out some concerns about their child and are ready to go on the attack. I often question, where is that passion when the child needs the parent's time? Where is the passion when the child needs that parent's attention? Where is the passion when that child needs that parent's energy? When a child says that their parents are too tired or too busy to help them with their homework or school-related subjects, then one must question the state of the village. One of the latest studies by the Prison Policy Initiative revealed that Black Americans, or African Americans, if you will, made up 13% of the U.S. population. The percentage of people in prison or jail who were Black was 40%. The incarceration rate for Blacks versus whites was 2,306 per 100,000 being Black, and 450 per 100,000 white. The road to incarceration of black boys starts in elementary school with unfair punishments and unrealistic pacifying remedies that in many cases enable the misbehaviors rather than eliminate them. But the pathway to success of black students also starts in elementary school with the teachers understanding the culture, the black student identifying with their culture, the black student having knowledge and pride and appreciation for their rich, diverse culture, the remarkable and great contributions of their ancestry, collectively and individually, all those of the African diaspora around the world. They can have self-respect and respect for those who look like them. To see success is to know success. To know success is to live it while obtaining it. To achieve success starts by freeing ourselves and our children from victimhood, to being victorious one step, one day, one challenge at a time. Yes, it takes a village to raise a child, and it takes the child to know the people of his or her village. So that does it for this episode. You can also view my videos on YouTube at my YouTube channel, Doc Ken Smither. Many thanks to you, esteemed listener. Another exciting and informative episode will be coming up next Saturday, so stay tuned. I will leave you with these words, quoted by James Farmer Jr. in the movie The Great Debaters. We do what we have to do so we can do what we want to do. Until next time, I've been your host, Doc Smither.